God.
I wonder if John the Baptist had this thought. This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I signed up for. He announced the coming of the Messiah. He pointed to Jesus as that coming one. He put that prediction into action by challenging the morality and the legality of the Galilean king Herod Antipas. His political preaching landed him in a Galilean pokey at the displeasure of that same king. Up to that point, I suspect that John was not all that surprised at what had happened, that things were fairly predictable. But then, as he sat there in jail, nothing else seemed to happen. The revolution did not begin as far as he could tell. The days stretched into weeks, stretched into months. In a prison, a man has lots of time to think about things. Finally, it must have gotten to John, and so through his disciples, as they came to visit him, he sent word to Jesus, "Are you the one who's coming? Or should we look for another? Are you the one who's coming, or did I bet my life on the wrong horse? I'm not sure I signed up for this." And the answer that John gets is not what he expected. John was a man of fury and fire, a man of action and judgment. He expected Jesus to bust heads and take names, to organize the troops and fan the flames for the revolution to begin. And as John waited for his head to be served on a royal platter, he must have been a little more than offended by the whole turn of events. I wonder if you've ever thought about this when it comes to following Jesus. This isn't what I signed up for. If you've never had that thought, first of all, I would ask why not, because it must not be very serious business. But I know that I've had that thought with some regularity over the last 35 years. The truth be told, I didn't sign up at all. I was drafted into this Christianity business. I identify and always have with the description that C.S. Lewis offers. He described being brought into the kingdom kicking, struggling, resentful, eyes darting in every direction for a chance to escape. I understood that response quite well. Even as an atheist, I was enough of a Lutheran to know how it works, that Jesus could free me from the powers of sin, death, and evil. After a while, I was pretty excited about that part of the deal. But I knew that from is only halfway. Jesus would also save me for a life of loving service to others in His name. This following Jesus is not a spectator sport. To be honest, I was far less excited about that part of the deal. If I'd had my druthers, I wouldn't have signed up for that part. But saved from is only half the deal. And fortunately, I wasn't given that option. It was C.S. Lewis who laid out the real cost of this for you and me, what we really sign up for. There are two kinds of people, he wrote in his book, The Great Divorce. Those who say to God, "Thy will be done," and those to whom God says, "All right then, have it your own way." I had tried having it my own way and found that that was the path that leads to death and destruction for me and anyone associated with me. And God's way leads to help and healing and hope through Jesus. Well, what have we signed up for here as Emanuel Lutheran Church? We've signed up to be a congregation in mission. And if we haven't signed up for that, then we should just go home and eat donuts by ourselves. That's really what our redevelopment and renewal process is all about. That's the real work of our faith team here, for example. That's the work that's described in a little book that will be our textbook for much of our life in the next couple of years. The book is called The Mission Table, and it's written by Pastor Steve Bowman, who's the director of our domestic mission unit of the ELCA. What is that mission? What is it that we've signed up for? We share the help, the healing, and the hope of Jesus. That's what we've signed up for. Jesus answered them, "Go tell John what you hear and see." He points to the results. The blind receive their sight. The lame walk. The lepers are cleansed. The deaf hear. The dead are raised, and the poor have good news preached to them. That's what we've signed up for. Well, how do we do that? We build connections to all of God's people. We serve with compassion in our community and in the world. And we live with courage by the power of the Holy Spirit. What have we signed up for at Emanuel Lutheran Church? We've signed up to be a congregation in mission. Steve Bowman, in his book, lists 10 traits of a congregation in mission. He says a congregation in mission is always listening. It mentors and trains its leaders. It nurtures communal leadership. It faces paralysis with courage. It reroots itself in its community. It risks new things. It makes all decisions based on its mission. A congregation in mission is clear about money and relationships. It's propelled by the resurrection of Jesus and is shaped by word and sacrament. Now, as you look at that list, which of those elements sound a lot like Emanuel Lutheran Church? And which sound a little like Emanuel Lutheran Church? And which sound like something in between? You received, when you came in, a little survey that gives you a chance to respond. I'd invite you to fill that out, and you can put it in the offering plate later in the service. You don't have to sign it. We'll report the results as we go on in the next few weeks and months, and the faith team will use these results as a guide for their work. Now this week we focus on a congregation in mission as always listening. And how have we listened? We've studied the demographic trends and the needs of our neighborhood and community over the last 3 years. In our transition team process, we interviewed congregational members and friends of the congregation and people in the neighborhood and community leaders. We've listened to the experience and stories of other congregations in our neighborhood and our area. We've engaged with the North Broadway Neighborhood Association, with other congregations in activities of serving, and with the broader community as well in serving. What have we signed up for as Emanuel Lutheran Church? We've signed up to be a congregation in mission, and we begin by listening. Well, the results so far. Emanuel is moving from being a welcoming congregation, which is a great thing, to being an inviting congregation, which is a better thing. By the way, have you handed out one of those little Emanuel business cards to a friend or co-worker or neighbor or colleague or the clerk at the grocery store that you've never met before? Emanuel is becoming the beating heart of the North Broadway neighborhood. A number of our newest members live within a mile of the congregation. We're dreaming of ways to use our church space for greater neighborhood and community vitality, and we're preparing to open Emanuel's Child Care Center within the year to serve the neighborhood and larger community. And that's in direct response to what we have heard from the people around us. What have we signed up for at Emanuel Lutheran Church? We've signed up to be a congregation in mission. Next week, we're going to talk about the second item on